3, 2, 1. All right, let's start. Sean Ng, co-founder of Future Farms. How are you doing today?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm doing pretty well.
All right, don't worry about, this. I don't think you've done too many podcasts before, right?
Nah, I think this is my first podcast. Right?
Yeah, so it's chill. Just like how we're talking at lunch just earlier, and so don't need to worry, right? So
cool.
Just to start off quickly so the audience kind of understands who you are and why they should listen, why don't you give us an elevator pitch of what Future Farms is?
All right, awesome. So Future Farms, we are an indoor farming company. We develop controlled environment agriculture technologies, which in essence means that we control all the different factors affecting the plant's growth, which is things like light, water, temperature, humidity, and CO2 levels, allowing us to grow the best plants every single time. So the reason we decided to go into this tech is fundamentally because we want to create a way of farming that is consistent and high in quality. And as a result, we leaned in on this specific set of technologies, which got us to where we are today.
Okay, so the short of it is it's in the vertical farming space, agricultural space, agricultural tech space specifically.
Yeah, it's agri-tech.
Agri-tech, yeah. So I want to give a little brief market history to catch up to people because I think there was like a very point in time in the past 10 years where it was very popular, then it kind of became quiet. So I guess people might be wondering. So just to recap, actually vertical farming has been around, the concept has been around for more than a century. Interesting, right? So early 1900s, geologist Gilbert Ellis Bailey first mentioned vertical farming. So it's in the literature somewhere back then. But of course, it's all theory for most of the 100 years, right?
Yeah.
Only until maybe like the 20th century. So like 1990s to early 2000s when, the trends of like globalization, urbanization, sustainability, food security kind of became into the conscious of the people, right? And it was Dixon Despommier, a Columbia professor who was credited with the term of, suggesting using skyscrapers as vertical farms in urban settings. But then I think the real major kickstart is in the early 2000s, right, to 2014, I guess the first wave you could say. So companies across, who were started in the early 2000s, there's a handful of them who've raised hundreds of millions, if not more than $500 million in the space. Right, so we're talking like significant VC capital has been put in from the early 2000s till all the way till 2024 today. So like, some of the early names were like AeroFarm, I'm sure you know, right, Plenty. And those guys kind of laid the kind of foundation. And then even some of them later on, of course, went bankrupt and are coming out of it again. So, but from 2014 to 2019, big boom, right? Fair to say?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's when like, I think lots of VC dollars kind of got interested, right? Aero Farms, Bowery Farms, Bright Farms, Plenty, all about thematically around climate change, water scarcity, urbanization again, need for local food production. So these were kind of like the early ideas. There were big tech advancements in LED lighting, automation, data analytics, right? Then 2020 to 2022, COVID obviously, supply disruption. It helped some of the big guys. They continued mega rounds. There's like few of those guys like App Harvest and Bowery, they raised like hundreds of millions in that time period, even though I think at the time it was also where towards 2022, there was a lot of cracks showing in the industry. Profitability was a big thing because I think no one was going out. Cost of energy became really big, even though it's kind of interesting, goes in tandem with the whole rise of like solar and renewables. So, and then what else? There was just general difficulty scaling. So they threw a lot of VC money to make these big farms, but then profitability or economics were kind of all ignored, right? So App Harvest, Aero Farms, Calera all filed bankruptcy. Yeah, right? So 2023 onwards, we're kind of in this trough of disillusionment, I guess you could say, right? Is that fair to say? Yeah. So like a lot of people are kind of disillusioned with it. Some people are cautiously optimistic. Would you think that's okay to say as well?
Yeah.
So there's still interest, right?
Yeah.
But it's more about profitability over scaling, realistic phase of efficiency, cost control, and of course, looking at regional specific solutions. So I just read about like Busine, right? So that's like in UAE.
Yeah.
I think it's the largest in the world now. Something like, I forget how big it's like 30,000 square kilometers of vertical farms or something, right?
Yeah, it's pretty big.
It's massive.
It's massive.
Yeah. But I mean, from a regional specific standpoint, they're solving like a real problem for that region. So it makes a lot of sense. And it's, I guess, somewhat related to state-owned. It's like the largest catering company in the world from there.
It's Emirates owned. So
Emirates owned,
it goes to the planes and...
Correct. Yeah.
Good story.
Good use case, right? I mean, and it made sense that you kind of need this combination of government plus private for it to kind of probably really take off, right?
Potentially.
Potentially?
Yeah,
Okay.
potentially.
Okay. So I guess the old investment thesis was this, like, of course, it's hindsight 2020, looking backwards, right? It's an environment of loose money, quantitative easing, right? So there's a lot of VC dollars sloshing around. But the idea was to use VC dollars to rapidly scale, do market expansion fast, and based off that idea, it should disrupt traditional agriculture, right? Reducing the need for arable land, solution to urbanization, food security, climate change, right? And of course, key ideas were like using 95% less water, even like Bostanica still using that term. Which I guess is true, but I guess we talk about it later. Avoiding pesticides, which is more environmentally friendly, right? And then of course, the idea that vertical farms meet local demand for this kind of pest-free kind of stuff, right? That's like kind of the old way of thinking, like more trendy kind of user behavior-led demand, right? And then the current investment thesis is more about profitability and unit economics, operating efficiently, mastering energy consumption. Cost management needs to be proven first before scaling. Looking at regional specifics, kind of like we talked about Bostanica. Integration to renewable energies is probably a theme that probably makes sense. Scrutiny into claiming anything sustainable.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. You tell me later, but if you disagree, right? So
yeah.
And then I guess looking at partnerships on how to scale. It's like you said, you maybe think that it's important to use, to work with government or organizations to kind of grow at a high level. So we could go into that. So that's what I've kind of come to understand. That's the current way of thinking in the vertical farming space. So tell me what's compared to the current, where you agree, disagree, and then also where's your current investment thesis for the space?
Okay, wow. I think there's a lot to digest there.
Sure, take your time.
So, so just to start with, I think like indoor farming or vertical farming, the actual feasibility probably it's within the space of like early 2000s, yes.
Yeah.
But actually begin in Japan.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So over there they call it plant factories.
Oh.
Yeah, and then in the US and Europe they then move into indoor farming, vertical farming.
Okay. And can you help audience who doesn't know the space? What's the difference?
It's just naming. It's really just naming. It's fundamentally the same thing. It's just that it's just a naming convention. But in Japan they did validate it and they did create like one of the first handbooks for building and managing, maintaining an indoor farm or a plant factory.
Okay.
So that's,
have you used that book?
It was one of our first
foundational books.
Yeah, reference points to figure out where the space is in and what we should do to continue developing on that initial prototype or ideas. Okay. So that's kind of where it kind of started, and then of course the Western Hemisphere kind of like picked up the trend and so on and so forth.
They threw a lot of money at it.
They threw a lot of money at it.
There's probably billions that went into the space, right?
Yeah. Like I think Plenty or Bowery is SoftBank backed as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I didn't go that deep. Okay, that's good to know.
So like the top three, which was Aero Farms, Bowery, and Plenty. Okay. One of them is Amazon backed. One of them is Plenty. One of them is SoftBank backed.
I think Plenty was Amazon backed, and they shut down, right? Oh
no, Plenty's going on.
They're still around.
Aero Farms is the one that went down.
They went down last year, and they just came out of Chapter 11.
This year. They restructured.
So they restructured, sold their main farm. They're operating out of New Jersey and have a farm somewhere else, like Virginia or something, I think.
Yeah. So I think that brings us to that whole unit economics conversation that you were exploring just now, isn't it? It's like, why did they shut down? How did they restructure? And what is the expectations going forward? Yeah. Because as you mentioned, we were in a period of free money or like cheap money. Yeah. And at that point, it's always about growth at all costs. And I think that's the overall VC landscape and perspective at that point in time. Yeah. And as a result, people have been expanding rapidly, not controlling cost efficiently, and not understanding the fundamentals behind how to efficiently grow a certain crop at a certain cost. And that's kind of like where we differ from a lot of indoor farming companies, as we primarily
future farms.
Future farms primarily focus on the cost. Okay. Because we
from day one.
From day one.
How did you come to that insight then?
because the goal for us, like, yes, there's the whole sustainability and better product, pesticide free, etc.
Yeah.
But very fundamentally, we decided to go into the challenge with an idea of feeding, of not replacing, but finding another way to grow food in a healthy and sustainable way.
Yeah.
And to be able to feed, quote unquote, everyone, you have to be cost effective. And we went into the challenge already knowing that this is a high capital, in a way, high OPEX way of farming. So we knew from the get-go we had to bring our costs down as quickly as possible. And that's kind of like the thesis of what we do.
Okay.
And as a result, we are significantly more cost effective in terms of both CAPEX and OPEX as well. So when you mentioned Bustanica.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because we put it in our pitch deck.
Oh yeah, okay, as a comparable.
As a comparable. So we are about, so on the deck, we're like 7.7 times more capital efficient.
Okay.
And about 10.5 times more production efficient.
But that's just going to be hard because does it scale like that one-to-one? Because are you allowed to talk about how much square meters you do versus them?
I can try.
Roughly.
I mean, now it's just about recollection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because so for us, we're looking to do about 40 to 50 tons of crops per month.
Okay.
Per 14,000 square feet.
Per 14,000 square feet. Oh, okay. They're doing in square meters. So they're 30,000. It's like times 10 divided by 10, right?
I can't exactly remember the numbers, but I roughly remember the ratio. So
okay.
But in essence, they're growing about 150. Let's say about maybe 100 plus tons of crops a month.
Oh, interesting.
But the efficiency is just not there. Maybe it's and these are just all based on public information that they shared.
Yeah, we don't know.
So I don't know exactly what goes on.
Yeah.
But just based on numbers to numbers that we compared, we seem to be more cost effective and production effective.
How much money did Bustanica raise?
Oh, I have no idea, but it's probably in the hundreds of.
Probably a lot, right? Yeah, the facilities are huge. So by right and by theory, and you tell me if this makes sense. If I were to give you $100 million tomorrow, do you scale with the same operating efficiency?
That's the thesis, and the thesis is that not only that, it becomes even more.
Okay, so you get economies of scale as well.
Not just that. I mean, we will also look to develop more. Like we are pretty much at the frontier right now in terms of efficiency, but we do believe there's still a lot more.
I can push more still.
There's much more we can do.
And some of that stuff is the proprietary stuff probably.
Yeah, it's a lot of R&D, a lot of optimization that we focus on.
So at the core of your thesis was to always be cost efficient as a primary focus first, and while having a more efficient way to do farming, you said? Or how did you phrase it?
Well, I forgot how I phrased it, but
in general,
it's resource efficient farming.
Resource efficient
in
farming.
general.
Okay.
Because when you reduce the resource use, you reduce the cost anyway.
And then it's what we talked about before in the kind of the overall trend in the industry, which is reduced water usage.
Yeah.
Reduce electricity usage too.
Land usage.
Land usage is the bigger one, obviously.
Reduce.
Actually,
labor.
you can't beat the sun directly.
You can't beat the sun. No, not until energy is free.
Not yet. Yeah. Okay. So primarily, you're solving on the other main variables within the traditional industrial agricultural space, which is land, and then also probably inputs of water and nutrients.
So resource efficiency is one thing, but also better products for people.
And better products for people. Okay, how do you define that?
So, I mean, within the industry, it's about pesticide-free, fresher produce, higher nutrition produce.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what we're looking to bring to people. We're looking to bring hygienic, safe crops to the general population, whether directly via supermarkets or indirectly via F&B supply chains.
I see.
And to do so, we need to be cost effective.
Okay. And then how would you define better nutrients for people or better food for people that you're producing? Like, so why in this medium, in this format, that it's better?
Fundamentally, it's because we control the growth of the crop.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, like a broad comparison is like Wagyu to normal beef. Okay. The reason Wagyu tastes better is because
it's better curated.
Yeah.
More goes into it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So for us with plants, we're looking to curate the perfect environment for the plants to grow to their best abilities.
So you're talking to each plant, you're massaging it. In a sense.
In a sense.
In so
in
many
a
words.
sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, great. So then, good to hear about your thesis. But then, so since we discussed the evolution of the space, which, the industry benefited greatly from VC funding, and at least there's so much that probably the dollars did in terms of learning, research, R&D, development that you could have learned from. So what have you specifically learned from this kind of wave, from the successes and failures that you kind of use today at Future Farms?
I'm sorry, in terms of what exactly?
That was a really bad phrase. Let me phrase. So basically, what have you learned from everyone's failures and successes across the past decade?
Right.
Due to like the VC dollars coming.
Right. Yeah. First things first is reduce your G&A cost.
Okay.
Because
can you explain that a little bit more?
So G&A is general and administrative, I think, which is really your HQ cost or your upper level cost.
Yeah.
And across the various bankruptcy reports that we've read, like you mentioned, Aero Farms, Calera, it sounded like their HQ cost was out of control. And as a result, they ran out of money a lot quicker than they expected. And at the same time, I think they were pursuing too many different things at once or expanding to too many regions at one go. So like Calera is a good example. American company went to Singapore and a few other countries, built the farms. The Singaporean farm is ironic because at the point of completion, the company filed for bankruptcy. Yeah, it's pretty much.
They were still pushing the narrative up to the end. Like there was a disconnect from HQ to Singapore, probably.
So that's it's a strong signal, isn't it? Like when a company goes bankrupt, but it's building a farm in a region that is so far away from where they started. Yeah. So those are little learnings that we have, and it's about moving forward cautiously and linearly. That means don't do too much.
So in a sense, you're concentrating more risk and specialty while being more purposeful about it, right? Instead of kind of like diversifying so many things. It's like doing everything and nothing, right? And so I think that's like a very good kind of learning, like how your MO for operating, right? Like doing very purposeful, picking one or two crops only, finding the use case for that crop. Can you talk about what that looks like from a regional standpoint in Southeast Asia or even broader Asia? Is that how you think about it? Or do you think maybe more broader terms? Do you care about what the other vertical farms do around the world? Because I'm curious, like with this thesis that you have, operating in this part of the region and learning from abroad, what does the market look like in Southeast Asia? And then how are you positioned in that?
Yeah. So the way we look at Southeast Asia is not just in terms of indoor farms. We kind of just look at the vegetable or leafy green market in the region. Yeah. So and that's kind of like what facilitated our decision as to what crops to grow. Okay. So we just intentionally went for crops that are high enough in market demand, while also being high enough in price point as well. Yeah. Because we know we can't compete at the most everyday crop. Yeah. And so we started with something with a little bit higher margins, and we want to gradually work our way down to the everyday vegetables when we scale. Okay.
And so it feels that everyone kind of started this way, though, like leafy greens, right? Yeah. And then some people, I think due to advancements after a decade, are looking, like especially like in Japan or North Asia, they're looking more towards like strawberries. Yeah. Products with even higher margins, I guess. Yeah. So do you think leafy greens is a mistake, or is just that more of a regional specific thing? Because a lot of the guys who started only did kind of a lot of easy, fast growing, yielding greens, but then was it too competitive in the West, or why does it make more sense for Southeast Asia?
No, I think it still makes sense in the West. Like if you look at Bowery, it's still selling lettuces and other kind of leafy vegetables.
But the distribution strategy is also different, right?
Yeah, they go supermarket.
Yeah, they go super localized versus big scale industrial, like wholesale and push to like supermarkets, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit more of a centralized distribution way of doing things, which is fine. So the way to understand the indoor farming market, I think, is there's two ways to do things. No, high margin, low volume, or low margin, high volume. Yeah. So we're on the high volume space.
You're in high volume, but lower margins.
Lower margins, yeah. We're sitting in that space. And we believe that both business models have different application.
Okay.
So another example is there's this farm called Common Farm in Hong Kong.
Okay.
So they do like, what do you call them? Edible flowers.
Okay.
And really, really high value crops.
Okay.
Yeah.
So lower volume.
Lower volume, so smaller space as well, but sustainable business model. Yeah. Strawberries is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a very focused way of doing indoor
very
farming.
Specific, yeah.
Yeah, very specific. And you see companies like Oishi, which is growing year on year as well.
Yeah.
So there are certain companies out there who, and that's kind of the trend. Like if you are able to specialize and, if you're very focused in what you do, you should be able to succeed. Yeah.
To a profitable business, you mean? Or what do you mean succeed?
That one, I mean, we wouldn't know, but...
it seems to be that it's leading towards a path of sustainability.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah, so I think if you maintain your focus and keep developing what your initial thesis is, it should work. And we firmly believe we are working so far.
But you did mention within your choice of crops, you started higher margin, but it's higher margin within the lower margin tier?
Yeah. Okay, within the large volume.
So massive volume, but then you pick the crop of that crop.
Yeah.
You're not going like the crazy mass volume, but like still has some room to work with.
Yeah. So in terms of scale, like rather than looking at a market size of 100 kilos a month, you're talking about like maybe for us, I mean, market size like tens of tons.
Okay.
Or hundreds of tons.
Okay.
So that's the volume market size.
And can you compare like what a traditional product? So what is your main product that you're growing? And then can you compare that to like, traditional farming versus what you're farming and the margins comparison?
Okay. So one of the key crops that we grow is lettuces. So for now, we're still kind of like slightly above what the farm gate price is. So farm gate price is the price that people sell at the farms.
How much would you say?
Still a way to go.
Like a quantum of 2-3 times or 1 point something times or half, 30%?
They are cheaper they're still slightly cheaper.
Slightly cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's getting there then.
We're gradually making our way there.
Okay.
But right now we are competitive in the distributor space. So like if you're talking about supply chain, we are okay at the point where the distributor sells to restaurants. Okay,
and so you could also promise the end customer, if the restaurant cares or the customers care, a better product.
Yeah, exactly.
That you can trust where it came from, not contaminated.
Yeah,
should taste better.
Less wastage.
Less wastage.
That's kind of the main thing. Like it's a higher quality product overall.
Okay. And you're saying in the supply chain space, there is definitely room for that to grow.
Yes.
Okay, understood. So yeah, let's talk about it then. Let's nail down problem solution. So when you first approached vertical farming, what exact problem did you want to solve very specifically? I know we kind of talked about it broadly, right? Like better quality foods, or is it really still coming down to that kind of same narrative where?
Yeah,
how did you come to that conclusion though? Like that's going to be a product that people want then,
So the product that people want, I think at the end of the day, it's a crop that people eat in this region. So irregardless, I think people would need to buy this crop. Mm-hmm. And if I'm coming in with a better quality at the same price, I think it's a no-brainer at that point.
So then it comes down to like a distribution marketing thing, assuming you can produce it.
Yeah.
And then that said though, isn't there a limit to what, because you're doing like lettuces, this kind of stuff, right? That's not also the main mass behavior.
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll grow more things.
Okay, so the goal is to tackle one niche first.
Yeah, slowly really developing it. Yeah,
try to hit that as much as possible, then curate another product.
Yeah.
So what's the strategy though? Do one big niche in Malaysia, jump to another country, do the same niche, then jump to another country, do the same niche?
We'll probably do so the plan for us, we're probably looking to develop like 15 crops.
Okay.
Within the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay, sounds aggressive though, because I think that's how a lot of the other guys started too, like many crops.
Yeah, but we're not doing it 15 at once.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to test it.
15 is the target. So
see.
we will be developing them 1 by 1 or 2 by 2, depending on the resource that we have.
Okay.
And we will look to scale to 15 crops, and that's kind of the goal.
Okay. And then so what does that look like physically if you want to scale from, because you're doing like maybe 1 to 2 crops now or more?
Now, commercially, we have scaled up about 3 crops.
3 crops. Okay. And then you're producing, like you said, 40, 50 tons, right?
We will look to produce 40 tons.
Okay, 40 tons. And then that's across 2 different locations for vertical farms within the Klang Valley?
Oh, no, it's just one.
Just one location.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're to do 15, what does that look like physically to scale that?
So we will look to mix and match a little bit. Like we won't grow like we won't just be growing lettuces all in one facility.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how we look to do it. Will all 15 crops be in one farm? Probably not. It will probably be 2 to 3 farms. Like overall, we are looking to scale.
Okay.
And we are looking to find the right markets to fit our product.
Then where do you see the limit of, like how much market share can you capture in this kind of format in the vertical farm space relative to the total leafy green space? That's how you look at it.
So the ambition is just 1%
of
the Malaysian market, for example.
Okay.
That's kind of gives you like a sentiment of how large the market actually is.
Yeah. And so if you're at 1%, how big is your business in terms of revenue? Probably, roughly.
1% was like an easily 100 million ringgit business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Comfortably.
Yeah. And that's only just Malaysia.
And that's only just Malaysia.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound then like, based off what we talked about for the evolution, doesn't sound very VC friendly. It sounds like, or at least your approach. Do you think there is a room for VC investment in this space anymore? Or do you think it's more suited more towards like traditional private equity? Like who's your ideal capital partner relative to your thesis, or even like your thesis and also the industry?
It really depends how we look to scale.
Okay.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, one of the things we're looking to do is to validate this first farm and then scale up based on that first proven model. And how we look to scale up really depends on the direction we want to go.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, of course, the PE space and the VC space, their growth expectations are slightly different. Yeah. And it really depends on the appetite of the investor at that point in time. Okay.
So looking at the leafy greens that you wanted to produce, how it was done across the past 10 years, was it very, like, have you done it differently from how the industries have done it? Or, like, how have you approached solving this problem?
Of growing leafy vegetables compared to conventional farming?
No, conventional, or also, I guess your competitors in the space and in vertical farming in general.
Right. So for vertical farming, I think it's pretty straightforward. We look to be the the most cost-effective ones. So we are looking to target the restaurant space, while a lot of our competitors sit in the supermarket space.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty clear-cut. With conventional farming, we're really looking to come in from the quality aspect of things. We're looking to come into restaurants and say that, hey, this is a higher quality product that has a much longer shelf life, because that's one of the biggest cost factors for them. In general, vegetables tend to, F&B, you lose 30% to wastage in general. So we look to tackle that head on by having a longer lasting, better produce.
I see. Okay. And then why don't you talk about some of the technical problems from like the beginning, and how did you end up solving these kind of problems, and how did you work through getting through to scaling to where you are today?
The technical problems of indoor farming. I guess one of the biggest challenges at the start is we decided one of the key lessons we learned early on is to in-house the technology development as soon as possible. Yeah, because our very first pilot utilized a lot of third-party technologies.
Okay.
Which
makes sense when you start, right?
Yeah. And as a result, it was just pure chaos.
Can you explain why? Or
build quality. It's a quality issue.
A lot of variables you can't control, I guess.
Exactly. Okay. It's supply chain. No, you don't know what's going on. You don't know why this thing works the way it does, and so on and so forth. So at that point in time, we already decided we want to build a lot of our technologies from the ground up. And and we have been developing our tech, whether it's our LED light panels, our irrigation control systems, our internal software, and a slew of technology stacks that we've been developing. And
so in a sense, there's a very heavy technology component.
Yeah.
Would you say this is the same across all vertical farms, though?
We don't think so. We still believe a lot of people are plug and play. Like they're buying technologies and they're utilizing it.
And then just try to go for scale.
Yeah, and that's ineffective in terms of cost efficiency as well, because you do not really know why or what or how you can reduce your cost.
So it seems that from your fundamental thesis of being very cost conscious and cost driven has led you to force you to be more tech heavy in a sense and think more outside the box and use technology to get the leverage.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, did you finish your thought actually?
Yeah, no, I mean, that was it.
Okay. So did you get any insights from customers that kind of maybe help determine how you decide to kind of either build, or did you pivot anything from talking to customers?
What we learned is mainly what I shared. So that there's just there's two sales channels in the end of the day, businesses and consumers. Yeah. Businesses want higher quality products with minimal wastage. Cost effectiveness is a very big thing for them. So that's an insight we've learned, and that's why we scaled the way we did. Okay, so actually it's all driven from like kind of bottom up. You were talking to customers. Yeah. Okay, so that's how you decided on that. Okay. Yeah. Understood. Anything else from customers or? Yeah, and on the consumer side, people care about safe and healthy food. So, but then isn't there a little bit of a gap if you're going through distributor restaurants to get that messaging across? So, yeah, but we are in supermarkets as well. So. Okay, so you're also in supermarkets. Yeah. So I guess the idea is gradually just to build the whole brand. So when at some point our restaurants are willing and able to communicate that their crops, where this is sourced from. Exactly. How does that look like? Like, how does the branding for this kind of business model work then? If it's very heavy on the operations, on the technology, but then there's a kind of there's like a gap between the end consumer who use your crops versus, you making them being the producer, right? Yeah. It's not like you produce it and you go direct to customer and market it, right? Yes and no. I mean, like, as mentioned, we have that supermarket arm. So that has a brand to it. And then what does that look like? The brand. Yeah. The brand is called The Vegetable Co. So it's like a physical space in the store. Yeah. We sell like packets of lettuces. Okay. It has a brand. It's almost like a typical CPG, FMCG type of branding exercise. It's Bowery. Okay. In essence. Yeah. Which means you have to compete on a retail. We do compete. That's what's kind of tricky then, huh? Because it's a different business model. Yeah, different business model, different muscle. But I guess you kind of you can't completely ignore it either. Because you shouldn't. Yeah, you need to build your branding somehow. Exactly. Is there any other way to build a brand then? The usual communications, marketing, roadshows, podcasts. Okay, got it. Is there anything you do to handle kind of plant nutrients differently than other vertical farms? Like, because I think that also affects how you think about optimizing taste versus yield too. Yeah, absolutely. So we have a internal auto-dosing mechanism, and we play with the nutrients quite a bit as well. Interesting. Yeah. So that takes a huge amount of R&D as well. That's R&D as well. Okay. So anything you could talk about that then, like especially versus your competitors, or? So the only thing I can share is that we are very data driven in this regard. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So then a lot of the skill sets requires to be quite technical in nature if you're to do this, which I guess your co-founder is the guy who handles that, right? Yeah. Very data-centric guy. Yeah, so super data guy, really into the weeds and the detail. No, I mean, there's no weeds, just metaphorical weeds, right? And then you're on the business side, I guess. Right? Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Here's a little bit of an interesting question, maybe more of like it's more of an intellectual exercise, I guess. Now, if you had to eliminate one input, water, light, or nutrients, which one would you eliminate, and how would you adjust your systems to compensate? I need some elaboration. What do you mean by eliminate? As in, like use less of by a lot, or as in we don't need it anymore? Yeah. Well, it's just more of I see how you think.
because these are your main things you optimize on, right?
Yeah.
So if you had to get rid of one, how would you kind of operate?
No, but what do you mean by get rid? Is it means I don't need to use it to grow the produce anymore, or is it I cannot control it anymore?
Cannot control anymore.
Okay. Was it light, water, and nutrients?
Yeah. Is there anything else I should be thinking about as a vertical grower?
Yeah. Humidity, temperature, CO2 levels.
Jesus, it's just like baking. It's so complex.
It's a lot of
It's
things.
a lot
man.
of things. Okay.
It's a lot of things.
Well, let's just pick these three. Are these the main ones?
These are some of them, yeah.
Okay. What's more important from a macro perspective? Like we're
So-
thinking about macros. Right?
Okay. So we definitely want to control our lights.
Okay.
That's for sure.
So we cannot get rid of that no matter what. Like,
No, I think the lights are very important.
Okay.
Equally so the nutrients.
Okay. Then water could be played with then, I guess.
To not control.
I mean, you need water. To, yeah. You cannot get rid of it completely, but
yeah.
there's more margin to play around. Like maybe I could use more or less water because they're using 95% less water than a traditional farm, right? Or I don't know what your number is at, but
The least, you know what I think the least risky factor is CO2 levels.
CO2. Okay.
Yeah, if there's one thing I cannot, if the one thing I can choose not to control,
Yeah.
it's probably only that.
Only CO2. Everything else is actually quite important.
I mean, even CO2 is very important, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't, because I mean it's a bit cheating, but you know, like if I don't control the CO2 level, it just means it's at ambient. At least I know kind of what it is.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be zero.
It's not precise control, but like you have it's like it's there.
Yeah, it's there, you know.
Yeah,
but no, everything else, it's because it all interacts with each other. You know, like the temperature affects the humidity. Sorry, the temperature and humidity plays off each other for the plants. And you know, if you increase the light, it actually affects the temperature as well, and so on and so forth. So it's all interrelated in terms of the parameters. So it's a little bit difficult to remove one factor.
I see. Yeah. It's all holistic at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, it feels like baking because I do a lot of bakings. No, I do a fair amount of baking, I should say.
Yeah.
So it's always, you always think it's like 3 ingredients, but it's like it's way more than that. So it's way more complex. So I have some questions around maybe the topics around how you think about growth and scaling and some of the problems within it. So, you know, I think like we mentioned across the history of the trend, like high energy costs became one of the biggest problems in the industry, right? So, and that's a kind of impediment if you want to keep growing. So how do you think about solving higher or managing energy costs or higher energy costs in general currently, and kind of what does that look like as you keep growing and investing?
Like currently, it's about efficiency.
What is it? Well, how do you currently solve your energy, and what do you mean by efficiency, and how does it improve?
So what it means is like because like as mentioned just now, all the different parameters, those are inputs now.
Yeah.
So the better you're able to regulate your inputs and the more efficiently you're able to use your inputs, the more cost effective it will be.
Correct.
And that's kind of like what we play with. We play with how, you know, like the length of the light cycles, the amount of nutrient that goes into it, and so on and so forth, to try to increase our efficiency gradually over a long time across the board. And that's kind of like what we are aiming to do.
That's just using traditional like electricity from the government.
It's TMV.
TMB in Malaysia, right? Wherever your national government is.
Yeah, but long run, you're talking about fusion, isn't it? Like that's the
well, we're not that far. Like, let's not get that far ahead. If you could put a little mini fusion reactor, obviously you get free energy everywhere, right? But we're like it's more like because that's the one thing you can't control. You get commercial rates from the local government, right? The utility government, you know, whatever GLC company.
Yeah.
So is it because it's a Malaysia specific problem where it's not a big issue for your margins, or at scale that's going to be a big issue? Then how do you think about like improving that factor? Because it seemed that was a big issue for the guys who raised hundreds of millions of dollars, right?
Yeah. I mean, like that's why you don't build indoor farms in Singapore.
But they try, you know.
Yeah, don't know why.
Well, it makes sense from a regional specific that they need food security. What if like they get cut off from trade, another COVID, and all the ports stop, right?
I mean, it makes sense on that front, but your power costs, you just do the maths. Like if the unit economics is not working out, it's not working out.
Yeah, it almost seems inherently from an island state like Singapore that they would always need to rely on trade, but it just means the barriers to entry for solving this problem are much higher, and probably that requires more government, I guess, right? So if they were to take food security seriously in Singapore and really want to de-risk it, they would need to have a local entrepreneur plus the government to help subsidize that cost. Otherwise, the economics would never work. Whereas maybe say here it's not as necessary.
Yeah, I mean that's what's happening over there right now.
Yeah,
that's the theme.
Okay, but is the government stepping in Singapore? Or?
Yeah, it's subsidized.
Okay,
and
then that comes with a whole host of different problems, probably.
It's I don't know, man.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, the other strategy that Singapore is pursuing is just buying up assets across the region.
Yeah, that's in the traditional sense.
Just
that's like the short-term solution, but long-term solution, I guess, I don't know.
Fusion.
Yeah, they should. So Singapore should just take all those dollars from Temasek and GIC and just put into a fusion reactor. That's the lesson we got from vertical farming. Okay, let's go back to the question. So then I guess it's not a problem for Malaysia vertical farmer looking at electricity costs even at scale.
No. I mean, there's always efficiencies. No, like you can do solar. We've done our calculations. It will save us roughly, I think 10-20% of power cost.
At what point in time does that investment make sense?
Yeah, it's a size thing. It's a size thing. Yeah, it has to be larger.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much larger? 10x larger, 20x larger?
Nah, not that much larger.
Okay, so like a double or triple?
Yeah, double, triple should be fine.
And also from where you're starting, that's very feasible. So it seems like in the next few funding rounds, that's part of your thesis where you get actually margin improvements or from cost efficiencies by just doing renewables.
Yes, but so for us, we are not going towards renewables yet because we believe like the capital going into renewables,
it's not as much as your gains from
it's better in R&D.
R&D, other crops, general growth.
The capital could be used much better.
Yeah, so it's like in the priority stack of how you want to kind of optimize and grow your business. There's higher priorities that give you better bang for buck, probably, right? ROI.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Then what do you think about same question, but for like water conservation? Or is water so cheap here? It doesn't matter because
I mean,
a lot here and
yes, and I mean of course every penny saved is every penny saved.
No, then put it this way: we're in a priority stack because
not very high for now.
Okay.
Yeah, but also we use a lot less water because as you mentioned earlier in this podcast, this 90% thing that everyone touts.
Yeah,
is true. It's very true. Like the fact that we recirculate our water.
Yeah, a closed loop water systems.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The fact that almost all indoor farms run closed loop systems means we don't just let it run off.
Yeah.
And we save a lot of water as a result.
So that's like the de facto standard already, closed loop water systems.
Yeah.
Everyone's already doing it. So there's not much more to squeeze in the short term, I guess.
There's always something to squeeze.
I love the thinking. So let's talk about scalability. How do you think about tackling scalability? Because like traditionally, this is the reason why kind of westernized agricultural became so industrialized. It's a big scale problem, right? You need so much amounts of space and capex machinery to run it. Then eventually it makes more sense if a corporation just kind of takes it up. So then, how do you think about scalability in the face of something that's so capex heavy, so the way it's solved traditionally versus kind of what you're doing now? So how do you make it more scalable versus like how it's been done in the past?
So one thing indoor farm, the benefits that we have compared to conventional farming is just going upwards.
Okay.
So that's always a good thing. Like for example, the ratio that we use for my farm, 14,000 square feet, is the equivalent of 30 acres of land.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's only one building.
Right? Yeah. So 14,000 is like half an acre, really.
Yeah.
So one building has the ability to displace up to that much of arable land.
In your pitch to investors, do you talk about how much commercial real estate is just laying empty in Singapore? I mean, in Malaysia, like in KL? That seems like a very good use case.
It is.
Say like you have this landlord problem. I mean, a lot of them are old businessmen, for lack of a better word, that just are so they don't want to they just want to sit on it, even if they don't really use the space. Even they don't care.
Yeah.
So, but it seems like that would be a good way. Like, especially, I guess maybe what you would need is some government initiative or something, or you go one by one, and you're a very good salesman, right? But
yeah.
Do you ever pitch this, or do you ever think about that?
I mean, that's the irony of space efficiency.
Yeah.
We're so space efficient, we really don't need too many.
Oh, you don't need too many buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess 1% of the market share. But I mean, it seems like at some point it would be a problem, and you have a lot of options then, right?
Yeah. I mean, every time we need a new farm, there is space.
There's always space
There's
available.
space.
Actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Space is one of the things that a lot of people propose to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that we're okay on that part.
Yeah. How often do you think about the regional specific taste? Because in a sense, you've gone niche because it's not mass to just eat lettuce.
Mm-mm.
And it's a more restaurant kind of niche you're tackling.
Mm-mm.
So do you consider that as you get bigger, you want to go to more mass, kind of like the local vegetables?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what would that look like? What vegetables are kind of important to tackle that allows you to kind of grow into a bigger kind of market?
Well, I mean, in Malaysia, it's your bok choy, your kailan.
Those are all imported mostly or grown locally?
Grow a bit of both, I think.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kangkong. Oh, no, kangkong is definitely local.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But it depends. Like, we really don't want or need to encroach a space that doesn't need us.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
You're just creating a solution to not a problem.
Yeah, exactly. You're just doing, So we are looking to displace. So lettuce is interesting because it's a displacement. You're displacing imports,
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see how you think about it now. Yeah. Versus if you just went straight mass, you'd just be competing against slaughtered probably, right?
Yeah. It's difficult.
Yeah. For traditional means it's just too efficient already.
Yeah, for the moment. But the thing is, like, once again, we don't grow enough vegetables in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so there's still a lot of room to grow food.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's a big thing, no? Food security in Malaysia. Yeah.
Oh, it is a big issue for...
Yeah. Massive issues. We're in so there's this thing called SSL, self-sufficiency levels.
Okay.
And Malaysia's like, we are not self-sufficient. We are below 100%.
Okay.
So 100% is...
The baseline.
Yeah, 120 is export.
I see.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
You have surplus to give out.
Exactly.
So we're just importing everything still.
We are importing rice, man. Can you imagine?
Yeah, and, but it's a question of how much of a staple. It's quite a big staple, right?
Rice?
Yeah. For say Malaysians specifically.
Yeah. Massive. Yeah. We're still buying rice.
Which is kind of ironic because go back hundreds of years, it was like rice, very heavy rice growing for certain regions.
Yeah. We have commoditized our land, so that's what it is. It's
well, that's the whole the whole global trade. Specialty issue.
Yeah.
Trade, right? So palm oil better.
Very Adam Smith,
Yeah, correct. Let's just do palm oil. But I guess from a security standpoint, if you were the government, you want to diversify that. Yeah. And if you don't have the land because it's palm oil driven, we'll go to the cities where there's a lot of space and it's way more efficient.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
So those are concepts.
Do you talk to the government at all? It seems like it would be like very government friendly, or the government just cannot get behind this. Is too bureaucratic and red tapey.
Nah, I mean, we engage them every now and then.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the feedback like?
Open to explore.
But forever open to explore?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, for now, definitely. I mean, it's now
still, I guess it's still early days, I guess.
Now, and but food security is a national mandate. So So they are very...
Has any government ever been able to meaningfully move the needle in this?
I guess so.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so that's an aspect.
What about key areas of technological innovation? Kind of where are you focused these days? Don't need deep specifics, but like kind of along your tech stack of what you want to kind of improve and focus on. Where's your head at these days?
I think it's everything, man. Like we're really looking to. It's never really just, let's say today let's do lights, tomorrow let's do water, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. We do look at the whole system holistically, and there's always areas to improve. So on the engineering front, there's a lot we can optimize, and we're looking to do so. Mm-hmm. And similarly, we are looking to develop more crops.
How do you manage all that though? Like you have to create like some kind of backend systems, like dashboards.
Yeah.
So you build all that you guys yourself.
Yeah. So we run IoT systems. It feeds into a database, so on and so forth.
And then it gets populated at some type of BI dashboard.
Exactly.
And then you know how to run your experiments and manage.
Exactly.
So I could see that being very
Yeah.
tech heavy, I guess.
Very, very data centric.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And have you seen other vertical farms, your competitors? Like, do they run in the same way?
I mean, I don't know how their operations are.
They're not opening up as much. Obviously, I guess.
I mean, even I'm not opening up as much.
Yeah, correct.
But I mean, we see in some of their systems, some of them are third-party systems.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So it's more cost versus you guys kind of developed yourself. Or it's very marginal, doesn't matter.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether it's cheaper to buy or to build. Because overall, but the cost efficiency of running it, definitely we have an advantage. Yeah.
One important question I think is, what's your main way of thinking developing a defensible moat?
Yeah.
Because it almost seems that, I understand the niche focus and you solving a problem to displace it, but if you have a bunch of competitors, and you have a lot of competitors doing it, maybe not in the same way, but they are also in supermarkets. I'm sure someone's probably talking to restaurants as well. So what's the long-term or even short-term plan to make this defensible?
So value, it's really providing value to our customers. And value comes on two fronts. Number one is on the quality of the product itself, which we have an advantage for the most parts, and cost effectiveness.
I mean, cost effect, yeah. So that's a tough one to compete on because you got to keep pushing that frontier, which it seems that you kind of have the right culture and the right thesis from the beginning to build your culture around, obsess around that, so they keep winning on price. And
okay, just to add, also like consistency.
Okay,
that's one of the main.
Oh, true.
Yeah, that's one thing that we have that conventional farming definitely doesn't because it's seasonal.
Quality, consistency. Which makes sense for restaurants. You need to have a consistent product.
You need to have a consistent product. And for other indoor farms, I'm not too sure because I'm not too sure how they perform.
Because the value thing is a little bit subjective and weird. Because
it is. I mean, it's
like, like you tell me this, but I have to, unless it's like a very purposeful branding exercise where it's like clearly on the menus or the packaging where it's like,
I know. I mean,
kind of like how they do it. Like, we got it from this part. This farmer did this, and this here's the area of land, and right, like
Yeah, no, I mean the pitch is simple, consistent quality at reasonable cost.
So then it comes down to really a kind of hardcore execution over time.
Yeah,
and to kind of maintain and kind of be par excellence better than everyone by a magnitude of 10x, 15x better.
That's the idea. Yeah,
that's. That could be scary because then you have to find it in the founding team and then the ability to scale that and be consistent over time. You have the grit, right? Like we talked about this when we first met. It was like, staying in this game for 10, 15 years and that's, to keep doing the same thing over and over. So very challenging. And do you think you guys have that in you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
The grit?
Yeah.
Just for me, I mean, the interest to contribute and to be impactful and to create a mechanism that will improve things overall, globally as a system. So we are really looking to create the next best system.
And I think the one interesting thing is like when I looked into your background, do you think that ties into kind of where you started your career, which was in like, I guess, justice, I guess? Improving the world, global justice, injustice.
Social
activism. This is kind of where this is coming from?
Probably, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think so.
A very strong sense of doing what's right.
Yeah, and I think that's something kind of innate in people. There's some people who are just born into this world like, well, why is this world not better? And it seems like that's the path you took. Like you worked on anti-corruption organizations, NGOs.
Yeah.
And I think that probably, do you think that's what framed you? It's almost like someone being a consultant too long where you don't have the impact on your work and then you want to really own it and feel it.
I guess so. I mean, but I think most, if not all entrepreneurs have that mindset of looking to create a better product for the world. At least that's my point of view and my hope.
Yeah, maybe there's definitely people like that. I wouldn't say every entrepreneur is like that though. A lot of times they don't even have that clarity about themselves,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
It could just be a cool, trendy thing to do at the time,
It could. But no, for me, I mean, I've always been driven by what would have a good legacy, I guess, if you want to put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, something that has impact, something that will improve things.
Yeah.
Or at least has the potential to improve things.
And I think from a team perspective, you have an interesting combination. I mean, I haven't met your co-founder, but I kind of like what I hear is that you kind of do the business, you go out, talk to people, do sales, fundraising, right? But he's the kind of the guy who makes the dream happen, right? Like he's executing on the ground, working in the systems, very data driven. And you kind of always need that push and pull. The best partnerships I've seen is kind of in this kind of setup, where it's very complementary skills. One's like always pushing out for the growth and, thinking about the business side, but then someone actually has to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
So tell us more about your co-founder. What's his background? What's your background? How do they fit together? Like, why are you guys the best combination to kind of make this work?
Yeah. So my co-founder, Shah, he is an economics grad, actually, from Manchester. But he's a very, very big technophile, I guess, if you want to call it. And for him, actually, the vision is to create this next best system. Or at least for him, primarily, it's about innovating onto a system that can sustain in a, hazardous or uninhabitable landscape.
Like space?
Like space.
You could take your products to space?
So
Systems?
one of his founding stories is that he was inspired by The Martian.
Okay.
The movie with the potatoes.
Yeah. That's a great story.
That's a great story. I love this story. But it is what it is now. He wants to be able to build an agriculture system that can survive on Mars.
If you should lead with this, I feel. I don't know if that would work everywhere.
Yeah, but
it makes sense.
It makes sense. It's clear.
Yeah, it's clear, right?
It's clear.
Yeah. People can envision it.
Yeah.
Of course, the short term is solving the Earth problems, but it's a system, set of technologies and systems and processes and operations that scale into space, in a sense.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly.
Interesting. So that's his background?
So background economics, but technology is his background, really.
And what has he worked in before that?
Management consulting.
Okay, this all kind of makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. So
he also was a consultant. He was also fed up with not maybe owning,
I guess so,
the process. So two guys who fed up with the world, they want to have more impact, and the work they're doing is meaningful, but not to the extent where they can drive the change.
Exactly.
And feel that they're doing it.
Exactly.
Okay. And how did you guys find each other?
College.
Okay, I think it's one of the best places to find co-founders, right? You always hear about people trying to do co-founder matching through like YC, Antler, whatever.
Yeah.
Those are just not always the best. You never bonded through something or know them well enough, long enough to see the good and the bad side of them, right? Or see how you complement.
Yeah. You know someone when you know someone. You know what
Correct.
I mean? Yeah.
Is that how it's been though?
Being good.
I mean, So you guys been through a lot since college, and you've known each other very well.
Yeah. So we did college. We went our separate ways for a bit. We came back together to do this. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then tell us about the tensions you guys have faced. What are some of the biggest challenges you had to overcome as co-founders together? How have you resolved them?
Business direction, I guess, sometimes.
Okay.
Or it's not really conflict. Yeah.
But strategic.
Strategic differences sometimes, but it's always about. So the thing about our company is we run on a set of principles.
Okay. What are they? You got to say them. You can't say that. You got to
say
them.
Yeah.
Is it like 3, 4, or 5? What is it?
Well, the main one is the best idea goes forward.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's good.
And I think that solves a lot of quote unquote conflicts that may emerge.
Really? But what if you think you're the best and he thinks you're the best? He's the best.
I mean, that's a debate. That's a discussion. It's not an argument,
Yeah.
It's about presenting the best case forward. Yeah.
But it seems that you're both logical enough to accept.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because sometimes it's about ego too. Then.
Yeah. So far we're quite chill on that front.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why it matters picking the right co-founder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's and we are very objective, I guess. Yeah.
As
logical, objective in terms of how we run our business.
Okay.
So it's a business. It's transactional in nature in that sense. It's an enterprise.
Yeah.
So with all these concepts in mind, we resolve conflicts relatively easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your other principles?
What are other principles? Always look ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So always.
So in a sense, don't dwell on the for lack of a better word, fuck ups.
I guess so. Yeah. Always look ahead. Always improve. Always try your best.
Almost like Kaizen.
I guess so. Yeah.
In a sense.
Do better.
Do better.
Always do better.
Always do better. Okay.
Yeah, and enjoy the journey.
Okay. Okay, sounds good.
I think that's quite important as well.
Okay, so with this framework in mind, and then let's go back to the question of these strategic differences. So then, I guess it's just leaning heavily onto these principles, then kind of working through it.
Yeah. It's just sometimes, I mean, there's so many ways to do the same thing.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my next question was what their core values and how do you build about them, but you already just said that, so that's good. Then tell me about how you think about scaling different teams, different roles, different specialties, especially since you are in the middle of raising funds, right? So, and I guess that's going to be an important question that comes up with investors. What are you going to do with this money? So how do you think about, to me, when I always build startups, there's two things, right? There's recruiting, which is you always need to have a pipeline. So you always need to be talking to talent, even if you're not hiring them, because when someone leaves a team, at least you have someone ready, or at least you could ask them where they're in a cycle. Second part is talent development, which helps the retention part. So how do you think about these kind of two aspects of hiring and then also retaining and then building them into different roles within the vertical farm business?
So let's see, on recruitment, I think it's as you mentioned, it's a continuous process, and we tend to hire based on what we need right now.
Okay.
So over the last, I think, 1-2 years, we've been building up our engineering and plant science team, bolstering it quite well. And the way we hire people, it's also based on their culture, isn't it? At the end of the day, like company culture is a big thing. How do they act? Where do they go? Like what drives them is important to us. Yeah. And also, of course, core competency for sure. Yeah. So these are kind of things that we consider when we hire someone. In terms of building people into their roles, I think it happens very naturally for us because we are a growing company. Your scope in year 1 versus your scope in year 5 could look completely different based on the way the company grew itself out.
Because it's relatively early in the cycle still.
Yeah.
So there's potential wearing multiple hats, I guess.
Exactly.
And then as the need arises, you fit people in nicely to different things, or they gravitate there? Or
they gravitate towards certain roles.
Okay.
And people gravitate towards certain roles, but they also develop competencies in certain roles over time. So you want to level them up or lift them, give them more responsibilities in those scopes. So it's a very natural progression for most everyone in the team. Yeah.
And then what current kind of areas of focus do you have into current talent development for which roles? What's most important in the short term?
From now moving forward. So now we are building up the commercial team. So that's mainly what we're looking to hire right now. Okay. Yeah, we're always open to brilliant new talents joining us in any segment of our organization, whether it's in R&D, development, operations, or sales. Yeah. But for now, it's the commercial team.
Because you've gotten up to a point after operating how many years?
About 5.
5 years, and then you've got the technology down. You've got the optimizations for certain crops, and now you got to kind of keep scaling that because you've been doing it yourself. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Understood. Then what about talent retention? How do you think about retaining the talent to make sure that you don't have to keep hiring high churn, this kind of thing?
So retention's been good so far. Touch wood, I think it's really purpose. Okay. I mean, cheesy enough. It really is.
Well, it's important. Belief at early stage when the risk is highest. Belief needs to really be.
Because the people that comes into the company is not, they're here fundamentally because they believe that they can create something that has value.
Yeah, an impact.
An impact, exactly. Yeah. And so far, our team has been strong. Okay. They've been with us for a very long time, and they are all driven to make things better within the organization. Which is, I'm forever grateful. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the philosophy that is required to join Future Farms anyway.
Yeah. And are you the guy who kind of sells that vision when you're hiring, or how does that work? Because that feels like quite important upfront kind of skill too.
Yeah.
Right.
We both do. The final interview normally is me and my co-founder together, Shah. We both have we both believe in a certain direction and vision. Okay. And that's kind of where
we want to make sure the people align to it and can get behind it. Okay.
Yeah. Because it's not easy. You come into Future Farms, it's it's a commitment. It's not rosy.
Yeah.
It's
Any disasters in that?
in what?
In the hiring the people aspect of this kind of thing, where you kind of regretted it?
Yeah, one or two.
One or two? What happened?
Well, yeah, they're not with us anymore, I guess.
Yeah, what's the specifics? Like, it's just like, do you think it was something that you could have done better, or is something unavoidable and you should have got rid of them faster, or like how's your framing on making these kind of mistakes now?
It's a cultural fit at the end of the day. You know, like as corporate as it may sound.
Yeah.
It really is just about whether a person fits into your company's philosophies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So very specifically, when this happened, was it because you could not vet for it, or do you like, how do you, because you're going to be raising money soon, you're going to be through the same problem again.
Yeah.
So very important to kind of nail this down.
Yeah.
So will you hire rapidly and fire faster, or do you spend more time focusing on the quality? And do you think you even can control that, to kind of weed out people that kind of way? Or do you have certain filters that, even though if it's how do you phrase this, a false negative, like you should have hired them, that you accept it?
Yeah. Hey, age-old philosophy, hire slow, fire fast.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
So you believe more in the quality up front and try your best to like not rush it through because it's damaging. And then if it is a mistake, maybe I guess your mistakes in the past was that you didn't fire fast enough.
No, I mean,
it was okay.
It was hired wrongly, I think, and also misaligned expectations.
Okay.
Sometimes that's just the case, you
learn. It's a learning that every kind of kind of goes through.
It just is. Yeah.
Okay, understood. So how has the fundraising process been so far?
It's been okay, up and down.
Okay.
Different perspective, different interests.
Yeah, you're currently raising. What stage is this, like?
So this is
Seed Plus, or we're at?
Yeah, it's a Bridge A.
Bridge A.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you raise before?
We have so far we raised about.
Okay, and then you're close to profitability.
We aim to be cash flow positive by March.
By March next year? Okay,
yeah.
Good. Which is a fantastic milestone from now till March. I think if you hit that milestone, I think it should be, I mean, depending on your network and your ability to sell, but if say we're putting this out there now and you reach that, should be quite a nice thing to raise on probably, right?
Yeah, for sure. But we are looking to close by December.
Okay, yeah. So the pitch would be, if you get in early and if you see your monthly run rate is heading towards that number, you better get in now. Otherwise, if it does March, then it'll be more expensive to get in.
Oh, a lot more.
Yeah, correct. Because there's some more inherent risk from now till March, I guess you could say.
I mean, yeah, by the mathematically speaking.
Yeah. And then how much are you looking to raise?
We are currently looking to raise about 2.5 to 3 million ringgit.
And you already, because it's a bridge round, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to hold you over to get to the profitability.
Exactly.
And then, have you found a lead for your investment?
No, I don't.
Yeah. So still hunting.
Still.
And then how's that been? Are you looking regionally for investors? Has it been a good experience, bad experience?
So, our investor requirement is also relatively specific, because we don't really just want a financial investor to come in and inject money. In essence, we are looking for strategic partners. So it could be from the angel network, but fundamentally we are looking for someone who adds value in terms of either their network or their knowledge, expertise, and help us grow into what we may become.
Okay. So not looking at VCs, not looking at private equity.
I mean, we're way too small for private equity.
I wonder if there's any guys who do very small checks. Probably not too sure.
Yeah. We might be a bit too small for that.
Yeah. Okay. So, but then you're definitely, but you would consider that in the future.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely.
Versus VC.
Yeah, I mean, happy for. It really depends on the alignment between investor and company. Because
I found out about Future Farms from the Tech in Asia event.
Yeah.
And so, anything positive from there, or what's your general take on VCs in the region?
I think VCs in general across the world nowadays is just cautious.
Cautious, okay.
Yeah.
And then, do you have any preference? Like, have you had good experiences talking to VCs, or has it been very more shallow, or how?
Each to their own, but some are good. Some have positive feedbacks.
Anyone you want to mention?
No.
Okay.
Keep it open.
We'll keep it open. Okay. So if you do raise the next 3 million, where does that money go towards?
So it's not going to capex, that's for sure, because we've already secured financing for capex.
Okay.
It'll go into what we term growth. So it is building up the commercial team,
Okay.
bolstering the R&D team,
Okay.
and general working capital for sure.
Yeah.
And also building up the kind of like the structure of the company by getting the right certifications or the right structure in place.
So some up stuff too.
Yeah, some up stuff, but mainly sales and R&D.
Which makes sense because I think, like you said, you've gone through that first hardcore 5 years of like getting the right systems in place, which gives you the platform for growth. So then it's just proving out growth by your current sales channel of your current leafy greens. And then what else is growth is diversifying to other kind of products.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the 15 that you want to kind of grow into.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Do you have any other questions or do you want to talk about anything else?
No, I'm okay.
You're good? Okay, so if people want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
You can reach out to me at sean@futurefarms.my. So that's future FARMS.my. My LinkedIn.
LinkedIn makes sense. Yeah. So Sean Ng NG. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes the most sense. And then no other socials or anything you're active on or?
Not really. No.
Okay. Well, great. Thanks for today, and I think it was really good.
Thank you.
Happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Bye bye.
Bye.